like to call to order the October 5th meeting of the City of Algoma Common Council. I'll have the clerk take the roll, please.
Heyn.
Yeah.
Dachelet.
Here.
Boer.
Here.
Gressel.
Here.
Weeze.
Here.
Everton.
Here.
Pabich.
Here.
And Schmidt.
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the
the
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let the minutes reflect that this meeting is held in compliance with the open meeting law. Approval or changes of the order of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda as published? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. It's moved by Mitch,
Second.
second by John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the meeting minutes, we'll take them all at once, September 1st, September 25th, and September 28th. Did everybody have a chance to look at them? Any corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Doesn't do that. So moved.
Moved by Kevin,
second.
Second.
second by Lee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment? There's no one here for public comment this evening. Is there anybody on Zoom for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to consideration of bills, claims, and conference attendance. General bills and credit card payments, did everybody have a chance to review those? Any questions on any of the bills or credit card payments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve all the bills with the exception of Weeze Memorial. Moved by Lee,
Second.
second by John. Roll call vote, please.
Schmidt. Schmidt. Oh, he's on mute, and we can't see him.
Yes.
Okay. Pabich.
Yes.
Everton.
Yes.
Weeze.
Yes.
Gressel. Boer.
Yes.
Dachelet.
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
All yes.
Okay, thank you. There's no request for any conference
Oh, you have to
attendance?
approve the Weeze bill.
Oh, excuse me. Then we need to approve the Weeze bill. Jackie's looking at me like, hey, what about my bill? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Weeze bill.
So moved.
Moved by John,
Me.
Kevin.
moved by
Second.
Kevin. Who seconded it?
I would.
Mitch seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Dachelet.
Yes.
Boer.
Yes.
Gressel.
Yes.
Weeze.
Abstain.
Everton.
Yes.
Pabich.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. Do we have any other claims pending against the city besides the ones that are currently pending? No? Thank you. Committee reports, finance and personnel. That meeting was called to order on Tuesday, September 15th by yours truly. The meeting was held in compliance with the open meeting law. There were no changes to the agenda. The agenda was adopted. There were minutes from the August 18th meeting that were gone over and approved. There was consideration of bills and conference attendance. Bills were all approved. There was nobody here on public comment. There was no old business. Under new business, they authorized to hire a firefighter, Kenneth Capfritz, in a probationary member status. That motion was carried. There was an ordinance amending code authorizing issuance of operator license by the city clerk. She presented that. The ordinance will be presented for its first reading at the October 5th council meeting. Discussion on the WPE group health insurance offering plan comparisons. The administrator went over and compared the current plan and some other options for the council to consider. The council voted in favor of just continuing with the same plan and the same contribution level. There was a resolution to have the city stay on the current plan with no changes. There was, Administrator Heyn provided a brief overview of supplemental employee paid benefit offerings and indicated that the staff is currently reviewing additional options to be offered to the staff. There was a question of any agenda items for the next meeting. The body did go into closed session under pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C, which was considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation. And that was to talk about the performance of and compensation of our Public Works Director. That motion was made and seconded. The council reconvened to open session at 5:58. There was a motion made and seconded to recommend to the council increase of the salary of the Director of the Public Works annually. And that was effective immediately to be paid for by savings as a result of a recent resignation with the Public Works Department. That was 8 yes, 0 no. Next meeting will be Tuesday, October 20th at 4:30 p.m. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to protection of persons and property. Scott?
Yes, Mayor, the Protection of Persons and Property Committee meeting was held on Monday, September 28th at 3:15. The roll call was taken. All members were present with the exception of Mr. Schmalen, who was excused. The meeting was held in compliance with open meetings law. The agenda was approved. The meeting minutes of August 31st were also approved. No one was there for public comment. We went through department reports for rescue, fire, and police. There were no requests to attend seminars or conferences or trainings. The bills were approved under old business. There was discussion on the animal ordinance revision. The animal ordinance revision was again reviewed. Recommended changes have been made. We also discussed the ATV, UTV map. Worked with Randy and Matt in regards to coming up with a recommended ATV, UTV route. Some changes were suggested, removing a couple of the routes that lead to no outlets. There was a motion made and seconded to refer the map and the updated map and ordinances to council for first reading and review. Once the changes were made, that motion carried. Under new business, we had an item on there for handicap parking. There was no one present to present that issue. Under license applications, new operator's license, there was one. No agendas for next. There were no agenda items for next meeting. The meeting adjourned the next meeting will be at 4 o'clock on October 26th. And the meeting adjourned at 3:59 p.m.
Any questions or comments of Scott's report? Hearing none, thanks, Scott. Let's move on then to Park and Rec. Mitch?
The meeting was called to order September 23rd at 7 p.m. All members were present. Also present Sarah Robertson and Nathan Andrig. The agenda was approved. Minutes of the July meeting were approved. Bills were approved. Nathan Andrig from Always Land Survey presented his proposal for survey work for new development at the Evergreen Cemetery. No old business. Supervisor's report. Park and Rec hosted a blood drive in September. Community building update. New laptop was purchased from funds, roads to recovery from the COVID stuff. Parks update. The the lights at Prairie Field are, well, now they're done. At that time, they were underway. They will be making repairs to the ball field from the lift truck. Let's see, installed some riprap at Christmas Tree Point. Need to do some cleaning and landscaping there this fall, hopefully. We'd also like to thank Scout Nick Schrader for his Scout project. They have 2 new picnic spaces, tables at Peterson Park. No Crescent Beach update, cemetery update. Like to thank middle school students and teachers for picking up litter. Oh, this is the beach, on the beach. They also updated us on the storm water redesign project. Let's see, Halloween, the committee discussed the guidelines that should be for trick-or-treating this year due to COVID-19. Motion made and seconded not to promote traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating in the city of Algoma based on the guidelines set by the Department of Health. The recommendation of the committee is to have contact-free experiences to have a safe and healthy Halloween. So we are not setting a date. We're not setting turn your porch lights on. We are basically saying we do not promote any door-to-door trick-or-treating. If people want to do it with their kids, family, with people they have arranged, there's not going to be any enforcement. We're fine with that, but we're not going to promote it. So that's what that's what Halloween is this year. We're sorry to do that, but that's what the recommendations say. 3 large trees at Peterson Park will be removed by Monster Tree Service. They were just too big for the city staff to do. It's going to cost $3,500. Discuss the emerald ash borer problem. Community Development Committee approved a grant request for the comprehensive outdoor plan for $5,000. We'll be looking for additional funds and grants to pay for the entire project. The cemetery survey with Nathan Andrick of Always was brought to us. It's $10,500, which would be in 4 separate categories. As he does them, he will be paid. I'm not sure the exact order, but it's things that if something happens, the first one is a complete survey of the lot. We've had issues prior to that, and we felt that before we go on with this whole survey, that should be resolved once and for all. And how that gets resolved may determine somewhat what happens after that, but once and for all, we want that taken care of. But the entire survey will not be more than $10,500. Next meeting is Monday, October 19th at 7, and motion was made and seconded to adjourned at 8:07.
Any questions or comments of Mitch's report from anybody? Thanks, Mitch. Let's move on to Public Works. Lee?
Public Works Committee meeting on September 15th was called to order at 8:30 a.m. in accordance with the open meeting law. 7 members were present, 1 was excused. Also present was Matt Murphy, Jeff Huffman, John Cross of Summit Beach, Kevin Kleiner, the Harvard Condos, and Jared Heyn, of City Administrator. Approval or changes to the order of the agenda. A motion was made and seconded, motion carried. The August 18th, 2020 minutes were approved. Public comment, John Cross of Summit Beach thanked the city and the committee for the quick response on the signage. Approval of the bills, Street Department wastewater treatment facility bills were, motion was made and approved, motion carried. Sewer credit application, there was 1 sewer credit application, and it was denied due to the homeowner was not living in the residence for the full year prior, according to our ordinance, so it was denied. Wastewater treatment facility report was done. All is good and things are catching up on finally with the water. Public Works Director and Marina Manager report, equipment maintenance is ongoing day by day. Employees are doing a lot of maintenance in inside fence area. Matt and Jared decided with such a late start on the LTE application, the hire would only work approximately 3 to 4 weeks. They just dropped it and concentrate on a full-time employee hire replacement of Justin Gauger. The committee wanted to thank Justin for the time in this with the city and wish him well on his new venture. Pre-con meeting for the 6th Street lift station was scheduled for September, or is scheduled for September 24th. That got rescheduled to October 16th now. Crescent Beach project is moving right along as we speak. Old business, Bell Harbor condos, Kevin Kleiner trench issue. Kevin was there to ask if the committee would consider refund per packet he presented to the committee last month. After further discussion, info received from Matt and Jared, and the committee denied the refund for the project that was done in 2019. Per contract, city did what was specified in the contract agreement. Motion was made and seconded, and was motion carried. Excuse me. Tree trimming. Matt responded as they have time and manpower, they'll be trimming trees subject to them on the walkways causing safety hazard. Discussion on the trees that are overhanging Shoppick Creek runs from Highway 54 to Navarino into Silver Creek. Citizens were concerned and wondering if the city can remove them. According to the info records, that only the city owns the waterway and nothing else. Committee is working on this to see if it can be fixed. We can fix this problem. Tabled until next meeting. Brief discussion on the boat trailer parking. We are working on that discussion at next meeting. Future marina operation. There was discussion on replacing BTOC system and beyond repair. Liability is there. The committee thought we must move forward and see where we can go to get the funds to do so. Along with that, we will keep running the marina through the city or see about possible leasing it. The committee agreed needs to fix the problems and then possibly look into different avenues for this property. Meanwhile, we gave Matt the okay to get pricing to replace BDOC for our next meeting. This is subject that the council must look at. Committee is working on parking problems and such to get this added on to the 2021 contract for the marina. Agenda, anything on the agenda for next meeting we discussed. Next meeting is Tuesday, October 20th at 8:30 at City Hall. Meeting was adjourned at 9:55 a.m.
Questions or comments of Lee's report? Matt, are you on? No. Lee,
Yes, I am.
when
Go
are
ahead,
when are you closing the marina for the year?
The marina will be closed Monday, the 12th. Will be the last day we'll have staff down there at the marina. Right now, currently, our hours are cut back from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For this week. And the 12th, all of marina staff will be there to kind of winterize, button things up, put it away for the year.
When will you be pulling the docks?
Weather permitting and the last of the boats go down the road. I think everything that's left there now is actually going either to Kewanee or Sturgeon Bay. I believe one of Kin's boats will be there yet this weekend. I think they have a trip Saturday and Sunday, and then all of the boats should be out of here. The following week, we'll probably start pulling the docks, which would be the week of the 19th.
Do we reach out to our seasonal and let them know the time frame so they make sure they get their boats out?
Yes, they are all aware of it.
Okay. And then as far as the docks by the launch, those are gonna stay until, if you wanna launch your boat?
For duck hunters, we will have to pull one of them out so we can pull docks, but one will remain in that duck hunters or salmon fishermen will be able to launch.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions of Lee's report? Then we're gonna move on to,
Matt,
excuse me?
is anyone planning on wintering their boat over in the parking lot this year?
No, they are not. Nobody has talked to me about that. I would highly advise against that, but nobody has asked about that.
Okay,
I know about 2 years or 3 years ago, there was a gentleman that I believe went off to service and paid the city to winter his boat in the marina parking lot over the winter. That is, at this point, nobody has come forward and asked that for that request.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Matt. Lee, let's move on then to Community Development Committee. John?
The Community Development Committee met on Monday, September 21st. We started at 6:02 p.m. All members were present with the exception of Bob Davis, who was excused. Also present was Jared Heyn. Meeting was in compliance with open meeting laws. The agenda and the minutes were both approved. There was no public comment. Financial report that I delivered was that we still had $9,000 available for grants. Old business, there was none. New business, we got an update on the All-American City. Sheila Van Lannen provided the overview of the city's selection as an All-American City by the National Civic League. The grant process was discussed, and a short discussion of the 25th anniversary of the Crescent Beach Boardwalk, and we are identifying other organizations that are working on that. CDC grant application, the Algoma Area Chamber of Commerce had put in a request for $5,000. It came to a vote, and the amount that was finally awarded was a $3,000 to the Algoma Area Chamber of Commerce. It was a roll call vote of 5 yes, 0 no, motion carried. The CDC grant application from Algoma Parks and Rec was for $5,000. It was reviewed and discussed. It was actually awarded in its full $5,000. And the roll call vote was 5 yes, 0 no. Again, the motion carried. And there was a short report from the administrator, talked a little bit about the Community Development Block Grant and provided us an update on what was going on with that. The next meeting will be at my discretion. If we have reason to meet, we will. If not, we won't. And we adjourned at 8 o'clock. Any questions?
Thanks, John. Let's move on to library. Jake?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick update on the cable, where we're standing in process with the management team. That now that the budget the items, and that will be develop a plan and a job description for potential assistance in the television station. The Algoma Library Board minutes from Monday, September 21st at 4 p.m. were called to order by the president, Ann Schoenborn. All were present. They approved the minutes. There was no one there for public input. The approval of the the August minutes were approved. Friends of the Library report: the book corner continues to be open on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and are always looking for volunteers. If you'd like to have something to do and the ability to browse books, if you're a bookworm, contact the library for more information. Kathy will make sure that you get connected with the people at the book corner. The director's report was updated on all library programming. They're in the middle of transferring from an old system to a new system on the OwlNet, and that is going well. Maker Wednesday kits are available for patrons to pick up the first Wednesday of each month. It sounds like a very fun thing. It gives you some projects to do in your home with your kids. And even if you don't have kids, it may be a great way to spend some time expanding your mind. Toddlers and preschool story time will continue on Facebook each week live. Books and Brews Book Club will be held on the second Thursday of the month at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. So get some Anape Little Soldier, your favorite local beer, and dial in on the second Thursday of the month for some fun. Retro Aerobics via Facebook. We're giving it a trial on the second Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. Paint and pour kit, mini acrylic paint and pour kits are available to all adults beginning on October 7th. If you have an artistic streak in you, it's a great way to explore your inner Pablo Picasso. Monster Kit Grab and Go kits are to kids and families beginning on October 26th. All of these programs can be found on our website, and the library continues to offer curbside pickup during open hours. Our new library aide, Nicole Gould, was hired and began working on September 22nd. Treasurer's report, revenues and disbursements were reviewed and presented to the library board. Approval of bills, motions were made and approved for the September 2020 expenditures. Old business, library plans and discussion changes were made. The library plan, which was put in place on June 22nd, will continue. Will be open Monday through Friday with the current restrictions in place. Kathy and the library board are continuously reviewing this process. New business, there was none. Closed session, there was none. And agenda items for the next meeting, the review of the library plan. We ended our meeting at 4:22 p.m. On October. Our next meeting is October 19th at 4 p.m. This month I've got, rather than a whole list of historical things, we've got books purchased. The library purchased 88 new titles. Audiobooks were purchased. We have 5 new titles, including titles from Dean Koontz and Bob Woodward, and 12 DVDs were purchased. The big event in October was in 1921 on October 5th. The World Series was broadcast on radio for the first time. And in honor of baseball being back and them actually having a bit of a baseball season, some books available. They played the games, memories from 47 major leaguers, The Boys of Summer, 100 Things Brewer Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die, and the DVDs available are The Sandlot, Major League, and Field of Dreams. If you're not running toward baseball is one of your favorite topics, books suggested for reading this month are The Return by Nicholas Sparks, 3 Women Disappear by James Patterson, One-on-One by Ruth Ware. Political books from all sides are also very popular right now. Rage by Bob Woodward and Blitz by David Horowitz are also available. DVDs available brand new this year are International Falls, Resistance, The True History of the Kelly Gang. Not a whole lot of big name titles have been released due to our current medical scenario. But that's about it on the library report.
Any questions or comments? Mitch?
What is the data when they borrow the hotspots out? Who pays for the data and how do you control how much they use?
Well, if Kathy's sitting there, that's a great question for her. I'm aware that they're available, but I have not actually sat down and used one. Is Kathy
I am
there?
here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The first year, the data package for each Wi-Fi hotspot was paid for via that grants from the utilities. And I can monitor, well, I don't monitor the use, but say if we wouldn't get a hotspot back, I can go online and I can turn it off. So somebody can just take our hotspot and continue to use it for free. And then we'll look at it again next budget year, as far as continuing it.
How many do you have?
We have 5.
Okay.
Any other questions of the library report? Hearing none? Okay. Thanks, Jake. Let's move on to medical board. John?
Thank you. Medical Board met on September 24th at 4:30 in the afternoon. All members were present. Other people present were Jean Marsh and Carol Nell. The agenda and the minutes were both reviewed and approved. There was no public participation. Something different on the financial report from what you have in your packet. There was actually a financial report provided, and I'll give that to you in the form of the occupancy rate based on 42 beds was 69.6%. Our average daily census was 29.23. Our total patient revenues was 246,503. Total operating revenues was 345,726. Total operating expenses was 283,916. We had a net profit of 45,870, but there is a note here. We had $71,539 provided by the state COVID-19 testing and education funding that was received. That financial report includes that amount. We approved the bills. Roll call vote was 6-0. Old business on the fire alarm. We've received bids from multiple vendors for the replacement or upgrading of the fire alarm system. Even though we had authorized $31,000 to be used, that would not include a needed upgrade on the power supply. All bids came back, citing that the power supply needed to be upgraded. There was a motion by Rodrian, second by Wagner, to authorize an additional $3,500 to cover the cost of the power supply upgrade. The roll call vote was 6 yes, 0 no. Motion was carried. On the 2021 budget, an assumed average bed census level is needed to determine the 2021 budget. Different census assumptions were discussed. Motion by Pabich, second by Rodrian, to use 32 bed average for daily occupancy for the 2021 budget purposes. Roll call vote was 6 yes, 0 no. Motion carried. The 2021 budget will again be discussed at the next board meeting. Under new business, we had infection control. All staff and residents received COVID-19 testing. 3 different tests are being used based on the reliability of the test and the cost. The screening test is the least reliable and least expensive. There's a mid-grade one, and then there's the gold standard one that we use if there is a positive, and we believe that it's a false positive. So we want to make sure that we have folks there that are COVID-free. Under scholarships for a dietary service manager, 2 scholarships were considered for funding. Motion by Hepp, second by Wagner, to authorize $2,690 for a total of 2 scholarships for dietary management training. Motion was carried. Door County Medical Center, they're looking at the possibility of us releasing 2 long-term care beds to them. Motion by Gressel, second by Dart, to agree in concept with their plan, and the motion was carried. Understanding business, the Friends of the Long-Term Care Facility did not meet. Administrators report, today the daily census on that day was 29. There have been 6 admissions in September, 1 discharge to home, 2 residents had expired. Staffing, we need 2 nurses. receiving good responses to the CNA recruiting efforts, and Mary Murphy retired that week. Under regulatory, we're preparing for state survey, reviewing hand washing, medication, and eye drop administration, and pericare receiving additional focus. We're working on medical records also this week. The state survey is a very important part of what we do and allows us to keep operating. Next regular board meeting is 4:30 on Thursday, October 22nd via Zoom. We adjourned at 5:50 p.m. Any questions?
Hey, John, I've got a question in regards to that. In regards to the release of the 2 beds to Door County, isn't that something that we're not going to be able to get back? Is that something we can get back?
That's correct. If we give up those beds, we will not get them back. And currently we have 42 of those beds. If we go to all private, we only have enough room for, I think, 40 or 38. But it would seem that we would have enough wiggle room to give up those beds if it looked good for us to do that.
I mean, are they going to buy them, purchase them? I agree in concept. What does that mean?
It means that we're looking at it and
Okay.
considering their offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there would be an exchange of money for it.
Any other questions of John's report? Thanks, John. Okay, let's move on to utility. Lee?
The Utility Commission meeting on September 16th was called to order by Vice President Dachelet at 5:33 p.m. in compliance with the open meeting law. Roll call. Members present: Guy Hosh, Mary Kay Bennett, Wayne Schmidt, and Lee Dachelet. Excused was Bob Valise, and he arrived at 6:22 p.m. Others present were Pete Hawk, Scott Wees, and Nancy Johnson. Motion to approve any changes of the order. There was a motion and it was accepted. Motion carried for the change of for the agenda. Motion and it was approved for the minutes. Public comment, we had none. Old business, planning commission update, electric water projects, none, no meeting. Annual 3% simplified water rate case application update. Public Service Commission approved the application for a simplified rate case. New business, American Transmission Company investment request. American Transmission Company voluntarily capital contribution were discussed. Algoma Utility was offered the opportunity to contribute payment of $3,071. Motion was made and seconded, and there was a roll call vote. All yes, motion carried. Award annual salt contract. Salt bids were discussed, and the motion was made due to the pricing of Compass Minerals, the same as we had prior, at $139.57 per ton. This was a 1% increase over current price. Motion was made. Roll call vote. All yeses. Motion carried. Motion to approve payment of bills and payroll. That was approved. Motion to approve monthly financial reports were approved. Concept exception goals for 2021, slight discussion. Commission received individual copies of all job description and employee accomplishments and goals for review and keep in the binders. Capital operating and maintenance budget discussion, review, approval. Capital operating and maintenance budgets were reviewed and discussed. The budget will be further reviewed in October. Managers report, none. Officers, managers report, none. Motion to go into closed session, none. There was no closed session needed. There was a motion to adjourn at 6:56 p.m. Next meeting is October 21st at 5:30 p.m.
Any questions or comments of the utility report given by Lee? Hearing none. Thanks, Lee. That's it for the reports this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve the receipt of those reports.
Oh,
Moved by Mitch. Second by Lee. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's move into old business. Under old business this evening, we've got the first thing on there is ordinance 828, and that is amending the chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinance, creating section 2-48 and amending section 2-1062, minimum requirement for agenda items, second reading and adoption. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. Oh, is that a question? No? Okay, I'm hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Kevin. Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Jackie. Roll call vote, please.
Russell.
Yes.
Weiss.
Somebody's got background noise.
Weiss. Okay. Weiss.
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Pabich.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
Dachelet.
Yes.
Boer.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. Let's move on to new business. Ordinance 829, that's amending certain portions of section 4-25, 4-26, 4-27, and 4-33 Code of Ordinance of the City of Algoma relating to alcohol licensing. This would be the first reading. We talked about it at Finance and Personnel. That would give the clerk the authority to go ahead and issue license without having to go to the public or protection of property and persons, and also come to the council for approval.
For operator's license.
Operator's license. So this is the first reading. We'll act on it in November. Next item is Resolution 1038. That's authorizing the City Council to adopt the police to prohibit the use of excessive force and to enforce applicable state and local laws prohibiting physically barring entrances, exits for nonviolent civil rights demonstration. Do you have any comment on that, either Jared or Jared?
Yeah, so this is, as you probably guessed, this is in relation to the CDBG grant. So this was the policy that we need to pass for the CDBG grant. So passing this will allow us to apply and receive the closed grant monies, which I just found out today have increased yet again. They are now at $692,000 instead of $680,000, so that's some good news. But in addition to that, it will allow us to apply for the $1 million CDBG public facilities grant, which will open back up for May application in May. So the first things first, we'll apply, get the closed monies, and then have an RDA meeting and go from there. But nonetheless, this policy is needed, or this resolution is needed to do that.
Any questions of Jared's explanation of the resolution? It keeps going up. Maybe we'll be at 700,000 before you know it. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Casey, second by Mitch. It's a resolution, so I don't need a roll call. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1039, authorizing a contract with Always Land Surveying for land surveying in the Evergreen Cemetery. Mitch touched on that in Park and Rec Committee report. Does anybody have any questions on that?
And this is all donated money. This isn't out of the budget or anything. It's,
So does this come out of the Canospi Fund?
A portion of it will be out of the earnings, trust earnings that the city has saved.
Okay,
And then if there's additional monies that are needed, then they'll use the Knopsky fund.
okay.
How much you have left in the Kanowski fund?
That's a fund that is, we can only use the
I think
interest, right?
50,000. We are trying to save that
Oh,
for
you
some
mean for
bigger
this year?
capital projects. The water lines we're going to try to do next year, and that will take a big chunk of money. We also have plans to do some repairs on the roof of the work shed and the chapel, so.
Any questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie. Second by Kevin. This is spending money, well, it's not really our money, so I don't need a roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 1040, authorizing the Algoma Utilities to voluntarily contribute $3,071 to the American Transmission Company for additional capital needs. Questions or comments? Hearing none?
Moved.
Who made the motion?
Jake.
Jake made the
Jake.
motion? Jake, did you make that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, who seconded it, please? Nobody?
I'll second.
Lee did. Okay, I'm sorry. Motion is made and seconded to approve the Resolution 1040, authorizing the Algoma Utilities to voluntarily contribute $3,071 to the American Transmission Company for additional capital needs. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of pay increase for the Public Works Director. This came out of the closed session meeting that we had for our personnel meeting. And based on his review, there was a motion made and seconded to increase the Public Works Director's salary.
Moved. Jake.
Moved by Lee,
No, Jake.
moved by Jake, second by Lee. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the hiring of Kenneth Caffin something, Caffingist as a firefighter in probationary member status. I'll entertain a motion on that.
So move.
Moved by Scott,
Second.
second by John. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion on trick or treating and recommendation from Park and Rec Committee. You heard the report from Mitch during Park and Rec, and they're basically saying that they're not going to encourage door-to-door trick or treating. So you're not setting any hours. You're not going to do like you've done in the past. You're basically saying you're not endorsing any trick or treating for this year. On the other hand, if somebody goes out trick-or-treating, the city is not going to basically do any type of enforcement, correct? I'm getting a yes from the chief, so. Were there any additional comments on this from anybody on the council? Is everybody okay with that during this COVID-19 crisis? I'm hearing nothing, so then that's what we're going to end up doing, so let the minutes reflect that, please. Discussion of employee requirements for self-quarantining upon returning from out-of-state travel. Okay, I'll take this, I guess, and you can jump in what you want and what you found out. Of course, everybody is aware with the increase in COVID-19, especially in Kewaunee County and Door County, and it looks like down in the southern part today, there's been a big influx. So the state of Wisconsin, I think, is number 3 in the world as far as, or in the United States as far as COVID. There was a question that came up to me, and I posed that question to Jared about people leaving the state of Wisconsin And then coming back, when I'm talking leaving, I'm talking city employees. The city doesn't have any control over private business or anything like that. So I wanted Jared to check on that because I was told, and I guess the information I was told was wrong, that if you left the state of Wisconsin and you came back, you had to be quarantined for 14 days. I had Jared check into it. Jared, if you just want to expound on what you found out.
Yeah, so basically what I found is there is no consensus. That is the recommendation from the Department of, the Health Department with the state, but it's basically up to each individual employer what they want to do. But looking at the communities, it varies widely. Some of them have strict enforcement of the policies, although there's nothing that's set in stone necessarily. It's just a policy that they've done more or less by fiat. But other employers are not requiring that. So for example, I know I always point to them, but Village of Bellevue, obviously where I come from, and being in Brown County, which is a particular hot spot right now, they do require their employees who travel out of state to exhibit no symptoms for, I believe, 3 days before they will let them come back to work if they travel out of state. That's just one example. Some places might make you quarantine for all 14 days, although that definitely was not very common unless, of course, you exhibited symptoms. Other places have no such policy. So it really, I would just say I think this is the consequence of not having clear direction from the state. It's basically just up to the individual community and organization. It's whatever the organization deems as the wisest course of action.
Okay. Does anybody on the council have any comments, one way or the other, on this? Mitch?
I would suggest to have some continuity in the county as we ask the county health nurse. Let's use the county people we're paying for, ask her for her recommendation, what the county's doing, and go by it. At least then you have a city and the county the same. Maybe the other villages and city would agree to that too. And I don't have a clue what the county's recommendation is. It's 14 days, but at least we're all be talking the same story instead of having each individual municipality be different.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay. I'll have Jared check with Kennard to see.
Yes.
I think, in fact, I don't think the county is enforcing anything, but
I don't either.
I can't be sure, Mitch, but let us
So
check with it and
But I'll confirm it.
we'll see.
If that's the case, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
Okay. All right. Administrators report. Jared, you're up. How many pages you got there? About 6?
This is the whole packet. Yep, so let me just switch the camera again. All right, stormwater outfall project, so that was underway shortly after our last council meeting. You might have seen it on the news that week. It was after Labor Day. Work is expected to be completed by mid-November. Public Works labor recruitment, our application deadline closed on last Wednesday, the 30th. We reviewed the apps and we have interviews scheduled for this week. So we will be holding those. Ideally, we're hoping to get someone started in November, kind of help them get their feet wet before we really hit snow plowing season. The clerk position, so as the council was made aware of on Friday, the city clerk has decided to take a position with another community. So I have a note in here that at this point I'm seeking feedback from the council on the position, specifically what we want to do moving forward. This is just anytime you have a vacancy, it's an opportunity to really look at if there are any changes that you want made to the position as far as duties, responsibilities, and kind of see if there are any opportunities for internal efficiencies and improvements that can be made through that. We did have a staff meeting to discuss it. What I'm asking for, unless the council is opposed to it, is just to give us a little bit of time to really evaluate that internally and see if we have any recommendations. We haven't had a lot of time to really properly get into it and discuss it and evaluate it. But if the council is adamant that they just want to move forward and fill the position as it currently exists, then we can go ahead and do that. I'm just kind of looking for a temperature check on that, so I don't know if you want to talk about that right now or after the report.
I'll wait till you're done with your
Okay.
report. And then we'll-
The budget, we had our workshop last Monday, and our public hearing will be on the November 2nd meeting. The plan is to have adoption then shortly thereafter, so I think like a couple weeks after, right, Jamie? But I think after the Finance and Personnel meeting, I believe. Insurance, currently we're in open enrollment right now for our health insurance plan. That goes until October 23rd. And then we're still in the process of changing carriers for some of the other fringe benefits that our employees pay for, such as vision and disability and things of that nature. We've been working with a consultant who has found pretty competitive rates that will allow our employees to get the same or better benefits for less money or the same money. So we're moving forward with that. COVID-19, just in general, we're just continuing to monitor everything. Obviously, we're pretty concerned with the trends that we're seeing right now, particularly in Northeast Wisconsin. As the mayor alluded to, it was just this weekend they talked about how 3 of the top 5 communities in the entire country are in Wisconsin. I believe it's Milwaukee, Oshkosh, and Green Bay. Market areas are 3 of the top 5 most rapid increases, so obviously that's very concerning, and so we're continuing to watch that. Growth to Recovery grant allocation. So our final reimbursement window will be starting on November 1st, meaning expenses incurred by the end of October 31 can be reimbursed. So we've met to talk about kind of prioritize what to use that money for. So I listed some things that came out of that meeting. So right now we're purchasing 4 large pails of sanitizing wipes. I don't know exactly how many are in there. I just know it's an awful lot. 2,000 face masks. Face masks have already been purchased. Sanitizing boxes or foggers. That's the best description I could come up with. They're basically these devices that are, I don't know, the size of like this laptop, for example, and you put them in the rescue, the ambulance, and it releases a sanitizing fog is the best way I can describe it, to sterilize the vehicle. So we're purchasing 2 of those. The police department has purchased new tough books for their squads because everyone needs to be using their own computer. So we replaced the tough books. We've already, and as was alluded to earlier, we purchased a couple laptops to be used in the event that an employee would need to work from home, should they need to due to potential exposure or actual exposure to COVID, work from home. To the extent that it becomes necessary, we can use the money to pay wages and benefits for public safety employees, so basically the police department. And we are also using the money for some office space renovation here to separate the employees. As you know, currently our treasurer and our clerk share an office space, and we want to separate those 2 positions to kind of obviously for their protection, and so we're moving the workspace down to the other end of the hall where the police department used to be, but as you probably know by walking by there, it needs a little bit of TLC before that happens, so that's what we are doing there. So are there any questions?
Well, let's go back to the clerk position discussion then, so we can get that talked about a little bit, what the wishes of the council is to give the administrator some direction on how you want that job advertised, if you want to give them a little more time to come up with a different job description, adding more responsibility to that position, just like we had talked about a week ago, where we were taking that position and we were adding an administrative assistant title to it, and giving that individual a little bit more work to do? Or do you want to just publicize or publish it as just a clerk position? I guess that's up to the council to decide. I would like an answer sooner than later. I would like this job advertised as soon as possible. I'm hoping it's not gonna be a hard position to fill, but in the back of my mind, it tells me that this could take some time to find the right person to step in and do the clerk's position. But I'm open for discussion from the 8 of you on what you would like to see. I know there was discussion when we talked about adding additional responsibility to that clerk position a week ago, and everybody had a little different take on what you wanted to do. Do you feel comfortable enough now that you can discuss it so that Jared can get some direction? Or if your mind is made up, that you just say, let's go and advertise for the clerk's position? And if that's what the majority wants, then we can give the administrator direction and he can start that process as early as tomorrow. If you feel that you want to incorporate more into that position, then I think you need to give Jared a little time to come back with some actual concrete job description, so you know exactly what you're hiring. Discussion. John, I'm gonna start with you, please.
Great. Yeah, my thoughts on it were, if it was a good idea last week, why wouldn't it be a good idea this week? If we were looking at it from something that Jared wanted to have taken off of his plate and given to another person to manage with respect to the HR stuff, then it still sounds like it would be a good idea. And I'm assuming that's what the purpose of it was. However, you will have to take a look at the qualifications of the individual that we're looking for, and that would have to be reflected in the job description as well. It does, HR doesn't get easier. It only gets harder, and it only becomes more time consuming. If that's something we want our city administrator handling, then that could be a clogger, as they say. If we want someone else handling it, that might be a more efficient use of that individual.
Okay, thanks, John. Jake?
Well, I'm of the opinion that I don't have enough information yet from Jared's office on what his needs are looking down the road to be able to make that call tonight. I think he needs to sit down, evaluate what his needs are, evaluate how he thinks the staff should be arranged, and then either come back to you as the mayor or go back to finance and personnel with an answer as quickly as he possibly can. But having this introduced 15 minutes ago and asking for my opinion on something that I'm not familiar enough with at this time, I can't do it.
Okay. Scott?
I would kind of agree with Jake's sentiments, but I was under the assumption that the bulk majority of the discussions that we had and the changes that we were going to make were more about retention and keeping our current clerk and expanding her role for retention purposes. I'm in 100% support of, again, we'd have to take a look at what the needs are. I think at that time last week when we talked about it, and as far as posting and finding new, filling that role if it were to ever become available, posting it as it is versus posting it with the additional responsibilities. I really don't know what's going to be easier to find and ultimately what's better for the city at this time. But I thought that the discussions that we had were more so about retention and keeping Jamie in her position and doing what we could to keep her. Now that is not the case, I would float it back to Jared and really ultimately I need to know what his decision is, what he needs.
Kevin?
That's it.
I think we should let Jared come up with a list of what his needs are. If he thinks it should be just a clerk like it was before, or a clerk HR person, because that would get different people to apply versus how you're advertising that job. So Yeah, I kind of agree with Jake and Scott.
Okay. Casey?
I'm in concurrence. I would like to see what Jared has in mind, how he thinks an expansion or contraction, whatever he determines he needs, will look for the future. So I'm in favor of giving him the time he needs to embark on that.
Okay. Thank you. Jackie?
I don't have a whole lot more to add than what's already been said, but I would be in favor of Jared outlining the areas that he maybe needs additional assistance with, and then to see how those particular tasks can be put into a new job description for the clerk, whether it's a clerk, HR, director, whatever. But just some way to expand on that position a little bit more, just based on what the administrator's needs are.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Lee? Lee?
I would agree on the rest of them I think we should get a job description of what, I think originally it was that we agreed on from our prior clerk. And then we were gonna see what the job, when we had it, he was gonna have a job description down so we know what she was gonna be doing. Well, I think it should be the same for the applicant coming in. There should be no reason, I don't, unless something, but for finance, could have it by the finance and personnel meeting.
That would be the goal.
I mean, you can take it along and do that on your honeymoon or whatever, I don't care.
Well, that's on hold yet anyway, so we'll talk about that. Mitch?
No, I don't think there's more that needs to be said. I agree with it.
Okay. So I think you've got your marching orders?
Yeah, and I just want to be clear too here in response to the majority and the concurrence of the comments. While I certainly have my own ideas, I want to make clear that this is a discussion that I'm having with all the management staff here as well to help, because they've obviously been here longer than I have and know the city in detail more than I do. So, when I meet with them, I'm asking them as well to provide input on what they see as potential efficiencies that could be gained by any changes, as long as it's appropriate with the position. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be, putting like parks and rec duties, for example, with the clerk position.
Why not?
But the question is posed to all staff. So I just want to make that clear. So,
Did you pose that question to the current clerk?
Yeah, I did,
Okay.
and she is still working on that. So.
Okay. I'd be just curious to see, if she had any other additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, so now that I know that I do kind of have more time, what we're doing is I've asked Jamie to really kind of keep an account of really what her day-to-day, like in detail, looks like to give us a very clear snapshot. Now, obviously, right now it's a little bit skewed by the election, but just outlining in detail everything that she is actually doing, not just what her job description says, to get an accurate reflection of what's going on. So
Okay.
I do appreciate you guys giving us the time to really look at it, and I'll be honest, we may not come back with any concrete changes. We just want the time to make sure that we're doing what's best for the city long term and moving forward. So that could be making no changes, that could be making some changes. I just don't know yet. So
But you'll have something by the finance and personnel meeting
yes.
this month. Okay. Are there any other questions of Jared's report?
Yes.
Mitch?
You said that you have 17 applicants for the position with Public Works. Are you interviewing 17 people, or did you?
No.
Okay.
No. We are interviewing. Well, I don't really want to get into too much details in open meeting, but no, we are not interviewing 17 candidates.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jared. Let's move on to mayor's appointments and comments. Only one comment on here is in-person absentee voting dates are October 20th to the 23rd and October 26th to the 30th, and that's during our regular office hours, which is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. At that point, you can come in and vote in person here at City Hall. Of course, we require everyone to be wearing a mask when you enter City Hall. And on that, I just want to make a couple comments tonight. I appreciate the council and the managers practicing good, safe practices when it comes to COVID-19. Like we said, it's taken a real big uptick in Wisconsin, and especially in Kewaunee County and Door County. I'm asking that you wear a mask at all times when you are in City Hall. And as far as the managers, when it's appropriate, I mean, if you're a police officer, and I know our police officers carry them with them when they're in their car, they don't wear them, but when they get out and they have contact with an individual, they are putting on their mask. As mayor and as the city council, we cannot control what the businesses do in this city. That was one of the things that people have kind of come to me, why can't you force this business to wear masks? We cannot do that, we're not going to do that. The county is not enforcing it, and the state of Wisconsin is not enforcing it. All we can do is recommend. We can recommend good hand washing. We can recommend that people wear a mask and try to use all the precautions they can with this COVID-19. We're finding out more and more people are getting it. Thank God there's not a lot of serious cases going on right now. The people that I've talked to that have had it in the last week and a half, it's been basically not the more serious type of things as far as just a minor cold and cough and lose your taste and your smell, which isn't minor. But we just want to reiterate, we're trying to do everything we can as a city. And I know everybody on the council is encouraging other people to practice good, safe practices, and so are our managers. So I think enough said on that. As far as agenda items for next meeting, the clerk will still be putting that agenda together for finance and personnel. And then, of course, we all know that Jamie has decided to leave, so you'll be leaving right after the election, correct? So she has a lot of work ahead of her. We're going to ask all the managers to pitch in to kind of help out in her absence, and whatever we decide to do, we're going to advertise it, and hopefully we'll be able to fill that position in a short period of time. Okay, next meeting date is Monday, November 2nd, of course at 6 p.m. We will also have our budget hearing at that meeting. We'll do it right along with our regular meeting. The budget has been published, has it not, in the paper? Amber? Has the budget been published in the paper yet? No? When will it be out?
I didn't see it.
So that people have the, believe it or not, some people do look at it.
It will be published approximately 2 weeks prior to meetings.
2 weeks? And that'll be where, in the Green Bay Press?
Yes.
Okay, so people can watch for it 2 weeks prior to the November meeting?
We'll also put it on our website.
Okay, thank you. If anybody's interested in comments on that budget, please feel free to come to that meeting. Again, we will be practicing good COVID precautions at that point, but get a chance, look through the budget. Right now, it's looking pretty good. We'll have some more discussion at that meeting, but other than that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Lee,
Second.
second by Mitch. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Go Pack, go.
You know,